A couple of months ago, I was at the thrift store and I found this joke book. I skimmed through a few pages and I realized it was absolutely horrible, which kind of makes sense because a lot of these jokes were written literally like 50 years ago.
What's the deal with polio?
Then I had an idea. Can I go viral on TikTok using only jokes from this joke book? First, I had to lay out some ground rules, and these rules are pretty strict, which is why I made another set of rules that were easier, and I followed those ones instead. Then I had to create my account. For the username, I decided to run the name of the author through an anagram generator, and then I chose the most normal sounding name. Ladies and gentlemen, Garble Reinflamed. Then I needed a profile picture, and I wanted something unique, so I edited a photo of Hans Moleman from The Simpsons into this sort of strange character that I used. Once everything was set up, I got straight to work searching for the joke I would use in my first video. I found one I thought was mildly funny.
Stork brought your baby brother. Want to see your baby brother? No, I want to see the stork. That's what I'm saying.
I copied that over to like a rainbow flashing background and threw a trending audio on it and hit post. When I first started, I was kind of worried people would not engage with the account because they thought it was run by like generative AI. Because if you think about how generative AI works, it's kind of just like stealing other people's stuff, which is kind of what I'm doing. But as I continued to upload, I kind of realized that that wouldn't really be as big of a problem as I thought. You'll see why later. Anyways, I made a few more posts for that day.
Actually, this one still holds up. I think we're gonna try this. Holy shit. Look at this. I'm gonna use this one too. I think maybe. It's pretty good.
And I also decided to try out something new. Scheduled posts, which are really hard to find on TikTok. You have to download like TikTok Studio, which is a separate app, and then go through like a bunch of different menus to find it. But yeah, you can schedule posts to upload themselves throughout the week, which is what I tried to do. By the end of day 4, we had By the end of day 1, we had 4 videos that had a total combined view count of 434 and a total of 19 likes, which is actually not too bad for a completely fresh account. Unfortunately, when I checked back a few days later, for some reason, all the posts I had scheduled, they did get uploaded, but they were stuck at 0 views. What's even worse is when I showed my girlfriend this account, she found a devastating typo that was probably funnier than any of the actual jokes.
Okay, update,
Wait, what
folks.
video? What's happening?
No, you're on YouTube. Update, my girlfriend has pointed out that there's been a critical error.
But the good news is, we do have our first follower. It is also my girlfriend. On day 6, I kind of knew I had to change things up. Text over a background is just not that interesting. But I couldn't just tell the jokes or else people would know who I was, and I couldn't just like hide my face because I think I have a pretty recognizable voice. Not that recognizable, but people are smart on the internet, someone would figure it out. Then I had an idea, and after I got tunnel vision on that idea, I was left with only one option: animation. So I made this new character from scratch, and he was like this weird clown guy, and he had a bunch of different like facial expressions I could switch between to make it look like he was talking. And then I used like a free text-to-speech software to make him say jokes from the book.
I practice smiling in front of a mirror and can't keep from laughing.
That video was so great, it got me my first ever comment. That same day, I also uploaded these 2 other animations.
Women are like champagne. The older they are, the better they get. Like my life.
She's
Fermenting. Nobody drove me to drink. But they had to drive me home.
Not even a day later, I give up on the animations. They're too much work, and I think they were just scaring people. Later that afternoon, I tried something different. I looked through the book and found any joke that could be considered, like, deep. I thought this would get people thinking, and people would be like, oh, that's deep. I don't know why I thought this would work, because, like, look at, this isn't deep. Look at that. I also tried to cheat a bit. I tried to make, like, an interesting background that would get people talking, so I'd get more comments on this video. But I don't think anybody really even noticed. By the end of day 6, I had uploaded 6 new videos, which had a combined total of 627 views and 34 likes. Also, by this point, I had 3 followers, which means statistically, 1 in 3 of my fans have slept with me. I didn't post anything on day 7, but I did get a bit more familiar with this book, and I noticed a few things. First off, why is the cover like that? Who is this? This is horrifying. Do you see this? This looks like Judge Holden. Another thing I noticed was because I got this at a thrift store, obviously someone else had owned it before me. And whoever that was had like put marks next to certain jokes. I guess those are like their favorites. But a lot of the jokes with marks are like prison related, which makes me think whoever had this book before me spent some time in jail. Well, that explains the hidden shank compartment. Another thing I noticed was that while some of the jokes have like aged and become offensive,
Well, that's pretty funny.
a lot more just aged and like stopped being jokes. And honestly, the funniest thing you could find in a joke book is just like a normal sentence.
These days, a person can't afford to make a living. Business is holding up in Chicago.
One of the coolest things I found was on page 337. This joke here, as far as I can tell, is just like an anti-humor thing. The joke is that there's no joke. But this sort of anti-humor only works because there's other jokes in the book that use similar setups, like stuff about pens, which means that despite the fact that this book is marketed towards like speakers, this joke is only for the reader. Which I think is really cool because that means that whoever wrote this was just genuinely passionate about comedy and added in some things that like no one else would ever really notice. On day 8, I noticed a type of joke in the books that's not really present anymore in modern comedy, at least not in the way you'd expect. This style of joke is kind of just like a mismatched definition where it's a word and then the definition for a similar sounding, albeit wrong word.
Surgeon, a large fish.
There's a good few of these throughout the book, and I find it interesting because you don't really hear this style of joke anymore, but you also kind of do in a really weird sense. Shitposts. These jokes reminded me of an old shitpost I saw a couple years ago that was about fried rice at Denny's and how it sounded like Five Nights at Freddy's. This meme is interesting to me for a few reasons, one of which is that it requires some prerequisite knowledge, like you have to know what Five Nights at Freddy's is, and I know that's not like niche anymore. But at the same time, not everybody would know about that, which kind of makes it feel like this person is just sharing stuff from their mind. They're not actually trying to be funny, which makes it a lot funnier. Another thing about this post is that the punchline isn't a word, it's an image, which is always nice to see. This shitpost also reminded me of the iPhone repair shop image. For those of you who don't know, this image was just like a sad sort of post or story that people would share around Facebook in different forms, and then people started taking the image and altering the text into just like random nonsense. They might even crop it out so it just doesn't mean anything anymore. And people did this for a while, and then something interesting happened. Somebody took an already altered version of this image and changed it back to the original. This stupid meme stuck with me for so long because it's the only example I can think of functional anti-humor. The joke is that there's not a joke, which is too predictable, so the joke is that there is a joke. I brought these two things up not just because I think they're interesting, but also because they served as the basis for inspiration for my next posts. I wanted to replicate the feel of an image that had been altered so much it was now something completely different from the original. So I went through the joke book for a few hours and found some good candidates.
Definitely gonna try this one. I can use this one for that thing I've been doing as well.
And then I edited them into images and made them look like Facebook memes that had been changed from their original state into something completely new. Of course, all these jokes were the original joke, but by lowering the image quality, it made it seem like it had been screenshotted and shared a million different times. I was gonna upload these images individually, but I ended up putting them all together into a slideshow and just posting that. And unfortunately, this post didn't do too well either. Without much success at the end of day 8, I was starting to worry that this video would end up taking a lot longer than I initially thought. But then I had the best idea I had in my entire life. Puppies that cure cancer. Unfortunately, this didn't really help me reach my goal, so I ended up scrapping that idea. But then I had the idea that would derail the entire video. Frowncore. Frowncore is a genre of music that I created with the sole purpose of allowing me to use jokes from the joke book as lyrics. I called it Frowncore because I thought that just telling jokes over an instrumental wasn't that interesting, so I decided to market it as like music to frown to sort of add an absurdist comedy element. So then I went ahead and made my first ever Frowncore song, New Jersey Frowncore.
He wasn't born, he was squeezed out of a bar rag. What comes before 6? The milkman.
I was so excited to share Frowncore with the world that I ended up doing something I probably shouldn't have. I paid $20 to use the TikTok promote feature to pay for views. Now, this is cheating, and it kind of makes this whole experiment less authentic, but don't worry, it didn't work. None of the people that saw the video really cared. In fact, they all kind of hated it, and this video didn't end up being that important in the long run anyway. The one thing we did get out of it was our first loyal fan, Jade. Now, I had a few followers at this point, but Jade was the first one that genuinely seemed to appreciate the content I was making, especially the Frowncore. Also, Jade's pronouns are she/it. But I think that is just a joke because it sounds like the word shit. So I'm just going to use they. Jade, if you genuinely use she, it, I am so sorry. But also, you need to change that. The next day, I made another Frowncore song that didn't really go anywhere except for Jade's For You page.
The feeling was so bad, even the birds were walking. His suit looked like $1 million. All wrinkled and...
And on day 10, I don't know, I kind of lost count. Anyways, on day 10, probably, I decided to introduce some acoustic elements to Frowncore. And after searching for some more jokes to use as lyrics, I have my third Frowncore song, She Burns Everything.
Always say pistachios, it's impolite to say nuts.
Over the next week or so, I also made 3 more Frowncore songs. Money in Money.
There's so much inflation, there's no money in money. The money gets...
Scottish Frowncore.
He's richer for me than only one. He's richer for me than...
And Ear Pulling. Jade was a big fan of all 3 of these, and by this point I had around 2 or 3 other people who also seemed to like the Frowncore stuff, but we still only had around 30 followers. This might be a bit evil. I did notice that a lot of the people that followed me had like pride flags in their profile pictures, so I decided to do a little bit of queer baiting, or as I like to call it, creating a safe space, and I made this post. I don't know if this did anything in the long run, it's hard to say. By this point, I think I was making content that was weird enough that no one thought it was generative AI, but just to be sure, I did make this post announcing generative AI, just to be safe. I also decided to edit some Frowncore into one of those The Biggest Song of Every Year videos. None of my videos really went anywhere, but Jade remained loyal and even claimed that he thought Frowncore was about to go mainstream. I ended up getting distracted for a few days and I didn't really pay much attention to the account, but then I logged back in and I had over 1,000 followers. At first I thought this was a glitch, and then I went and checked, and the video for She Burns Everything had over 200,000 views. I was really excited about this.
TikTok's slow, but we did it. We did it. Yes.
I went and read through a lot of the comments, and a lot of people said they wanted to listen to Frowncore somewhere. I still think a lot of those people were saying that ironically, but nonetheless, I made a YouTube channel where I uploaded all the songs. Also, because of how weird Frowncore is as a genre, a lot of people compared like other artists with interesting sounds to Frowncore. Some of these I think are a bit of a stretch, others are a bit accurate. Here's a list of every artist that was compared to Frowncore music. Tyler the Creator, Mitski, 21 Pilots, MF Doom, Earl Sweatshirt, Sounding, Kanye... Hold on, go back, that's not a band. System of a Down, JPEG Mafia, 100 Gex. I know this artist, but I don't know how to pronounce it. The Garden, Death Grips, obviously. Lemon Demon, and Jazz. All of it. And the next day or so, I made another song called Echo. Call me crazy, but I actually kind of like that one. I also uploaded an instrumental for it, and both of those videos did pretty well, got a couple thousand views, but they were really nothing compared to the She Burns Everything video, which was now at over 350,000 views. Also, by this point, we hit 2,000 followers, and someone made a ranking video about Frowncore Summer, which was the album that had all the songs I made so far. For some reason, the next day, I decided to make a Patrick Bateman Frowncore edit. I also did another video promoting my song Money in Money.
Money times my only stutter. Ashtray, a place to put ashes if you haven't done a prayer.
And this ended up being my second most viewed video with over 61,000 views. So far, nobody figured out who I was or where I was getting the lyrics. In fact, a few people even praised my lyric writing skills. As it got closer to Garbo Re-Inflame's 1-month anniversary, I decided to do something a little bit special. I made a tutorial on how to make Frowncore in hopes that other people would start making music as well. I also made another song called Puffed Rice.
Always drink better when you think. I have a terribly heavy beard I take after my mother.
Originally, Puffed Rice was going to be the last song I made. I had around 4,000 followers and over 100,000 total likes, which isn't like internet celebrity levels, but I was pretty satisfied with it. I even decided to reveal the truth to Jade, who was absolutely shocked. It was like a moment out of Undercover Boss, except everyone was unemployed. So I guess not really like Undercover Boss. I started to write the script for this video, but it just didn't feel right. So I ended up going back into the account and doing some digging, and when I did, I found a small community that was growing centered around Frowncore. Other people were making Frowncore music.
Yellow people yield when they look at her. My fish tank blew up my house.
Deze 1 baksteen in de hal van Tito hieruit. Fijn nou erin zien is af.
What did the tree say to the other tree? Nothing. They are trees. They called me a recliner for liking rocks.
I tried to follow my dreams, but I left my glasses at home. Oh man, where the drums go?
People were using She Burns Everything as an audio in their videos. This is the most anybody's ever used one of my audios, including the main account. I went through the comments on the YouTube videos and I found someone who transcribed She Burns Everything into a piece of sheet music, which I can't read, so they might be lying. I decided to make a video ranking my favorite Frowncore songs, including some that were made by community members.
I told the waiter I wanted soup. We waited.
My Chinese father has an imaginary friend named Taiwan.
Always say pistachios, it's impolite to say nuts.
Then I did something that was going to be a huge pain in the ass. I put the music on Spotify. I also made 2 new songs, which I uploaded along with all the pre-existing songs under the album Frowncore Summer Deluxe. The first new song was called Side Splitting.
My brother has a tape, one comes from me, tape. One night, a burglar broke into her house. All he got was practice.
And the second song was an instrumental that served as the intro to the album. Unfortunately, by the time I got the music onto Spotify, a lot of the hype had died down, and none of these songs managed to break over 1,000 streams. At least so far. Someone else made a ranking video for the Frowncore songs. This person was a lot more harsh. Currently, Garbo Reinflamed has 5,339 followers and 143,000 likes. By this point, I considered the experiment to be over, so I sort of ditched the joke book just to have a bit of fun, and I gave the Frowncore community one last thing before I made this video. A Frowncore cover of the Death Grip song Guillotine, which is already a really wacky experimental song.
The illest of means. Don't have to sound the 50 sound you're experiencing. Yeah. It goes.
Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and thank you to anybody who unknowingly supported me through Garbo Reinflamed. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you guys watching to the end as well. It really does mean a lot to me, especially because I've never really done this sort of video before. And yeah, I've never really done this before. I don't really have an outro. What do I...